Welcome back to Sacred Caregiving. My name is Barbara, and we are continuing our September series on finding the sacred in everyday care. This week, we're talking about bathing, not just as a task, but as a sacred act of trust, tenderness, and presence. Bathing is one of the most intimate caregiving rituals. It invites us to offer comfort and to preserve the dignity in moments that feel vulnerable. Because if you think about it, the person is there in front of you naked. There's nowhere to hide and nothing to hide. So, as caregivers, it's up to us to help the person feel safe and loved. It also invites us to slow down. And sometimes those moments to slow down are when you most just want to get it done and over with. Like at 3 a.m. after a 20-hour day. After my mom became bedbound on hospice, there were multiple times when I would have to clean her up at 3 a.m. after we had already been up for 20 hours. Because that was when the suppository that the nurse gave her 15 hours earlier for her constipation finally decided to work and unplug the pipes, so to speak. My mom would apologize and I'd tease her and say, well, you changed my diaper when I was younger, so I figured this was just payback. And I'd joke with her or sometimes badly sing the song River by my favorite group Brother. We'd chat mostly to keep both of us awake. But there was something about those middle of the night moments after a long day of hospice workers coming in and out and people coming over to help or to visit. And I am forever grateful to those people. But there were times that it was just so much and so busy. So, in those moments when it was just the two of us, it was quiet, present, and yes, even sacred. Now, cut to years later when one of my nieces helped care for grandma, and I was doing what's known in healthcare as the patient handoff, transferring care to someone else for a little while and basically like telling them, how the day went, what they could possibly expect. In this particular case, I had told her that grandma had needed 2 baths that day. And that if grandma had another bowel movement, she might need a 3rd bath. Or at least a good wipe down and a diaper change. Now, you can imagine a teenager's reaction to being told that she might have to clean up her great grandmother. I told her the same thing I used to tell my mom. She changed your diaper when you were little, and now it's your turn. And my niece's reply was something like, I was just a baby. I couldn't control it. She's an adult. And that's where a lot of frustration lives in caregiving. Realizing that the person you're caring for can't do basic things anymore. And a lot of times, if it's a parent or grandparent or someone older than you that has been important in your life that cared for you when you were younger, those roles have now been reversed. And that dignity feels fragile for both of you. But also the realization that love can still live there. Now, not every bath is sacred. Sometimes it's a battle. There were times with Grandma when she absolutely did not want to take a bath. On days like that, I'd wait a little while, see if she calmed down, and try again. Now, if she had bathed within the past couple of days and she hadn't soiled herself that day, I'd let it go. Because some days, the battle of the bath just isn't worth it. But if she had soiled herself badly and she was throwing one of her full grown adult temper tantrum levels of resistance, I tried to calmly explain that she really needed a bath. But if she still wasn't having it, I'd pivot. Well, then at least let's change her clothes. And while I was doing that, I'd give her a little bit of a sponge bath. Or at the very least, I'd wipe her down with the baby wipes, make sure she was all nice and clean, change her adult diaper, powder it, things like that. Now, there are plenty of instructional videos out there on how to give somebody a bath using a bath bench. And for those of you who are on my Patreon, there will be links in my second tier Patreon for some of those instructional videos. What I want to share is the basic steps on how I did it with Grandma. Because, like I said, she would become incontinent of stool. She would become incontinent of urine. In other words, like, she'd basically, go to the bathroom in her adult diaper because either she couldn't get to the toilet fast enough or she didn't know that she was actually going. And this led to her being prone to urinary tract infections. So it was really important that we kept her as clean as we possibly could. So these steps aren't just practical. They're rooted in care and comfort and respect for the person. So, number one thing I did, I prepped the space before Grandma ever entered. I turned the water in the shower to lukewarm because older adults have more sensitive skin. And in some cases, medications can also affect the skin and how sensitive the skin is. So I ran the shower sprayer and pointed it down, draping it over the faucet so that Grandma didn't get sprayed immediately. I'd soap up a hand towel and lay it across the bath bench seat to gently clean her as she sat. I had two washcloths ready, one for washing and one for rinsing. Keep it simple and consistent. I used to have two different colors for one for the wash rag and the rinsing washcloth, just so I knew I didn't get them mixed up. This also works for sponge baths. Just swap the shower for two basins, one with warm soapy water with that washcloth, and one with clean water for rinsing with the second washcloth. Continuing with the two theme, I also had two towels ready, one to dry grandma with, and one to keep her covered so she wasn't exposed. That's where I said before of helping them to maintain their dignity, and helping them not to feel so vulnerable. Is that first towel allows them to cover up after the shower so that while you're drying them off, they can keep covered. I always dried her feet and legs first. That was so that when she stood, there was less of a chance she'd slip and fall. When she was in the shower, I'd spray grandma's hands first and ask, "How's the temperature, grandma?" I'd say, "Is it too hot? Is it too cold?" It gave her a little say in the process and helped her to feel safe. Which leads me into my next point. Give them some control when possible. Again, I let her hold the shower sprayer while I washed her with the soapy cloth. It gave her a sense of agency and helped her feel a little more in control. I also gave her choices about what she wanted to wear afterwards, but not too many. Like, I wouldn't roll her into the closet and say, "Okay, grandma, what do you want to wear?" I'd lay out 2 or 3 appropriate outfits and let her choose. It was a small way to restore some of her autonomy without overwhelming her. When grandma was in the shower and she could still stand, I had her hold the grab bar with both hands, and I'd use the soapy hand towel to wash her front and back and the nether regions, paying close attention to the backside and making sure everything was clean and the skin was flesh colored again. I used the massage sprayer setting on the shower sprayer. It was basically the equivalent of power washing her butt, and it worked. Then I'd switch it back to the normal setting after she sat down. Again, because she had sensitive skin, I didn't want that hard vibration of the shower massager on her skin. I just wanted to be able to basically, like I said, power wash the backside. And also narrate each step. I described what I was doing as I did it. It wasn't just for comfort, it was a way of saying, "You're safe, you're seen." And I did this also when we'd wash her hair. I'd be like, "You want to wash your hair today, grandma?" And she'd say yes or no. And on days when she'd say yes, then, I'd say, "Okay, grandma, I'm going to wet down your hair. So, cover your eyes so you don't get water in your eyes." And I'd say, "Okay, I'm going to soap up. So make sure you keep your eyes closed." And again, when I was rinsing, and then I'd be like, "Okay, grandma, I'm going to rinse you off. And then we'll turn the shower off." Also note, when you turn the shower off, if you have 2 knobs, one for hot and one for cold, turn the hot water off first, then turn the cold off. The reason being, you don't want to scald the person. After I dried her off, I'd sprinkle baby powder into her adult diaper before putting it on. And I'd also powder her anywhere that skin touches skin, under the belly, under the breasts, in skin folds. If you prefer, you can use antiperspirant, not deodorant, antiperspirant, in those areas as well as under the arms. However, if you choose to use this option, you can use it in the nether regions, but I would recommend having a separate antiperspirant for the upper body and a separate one for the lower body. And if there's a favorite scent, like a cologne or a perfume they've always worn, this is the moment to apply it. It's a small gesture, but it restores a sense of identity, dignity, and comfort. And in some cases, smells can bring back memories. These are just little things that you can do. Bathing is a sacred act of trust and tenderness. And sometimes it's a sacred act of maintaining your sanity, especially when bathing becomes a battleground. You're not failing when you have to adapt. You're honoring the moment. You're honoring the person you're caring for. Bathing isn't just about hygiene. It's about trust. It's about saying, you are safe. You are seen. It's about finding grace in the mess, humor, connection in the quiet, and even in the exhaustion. It's about knowing when to push and when to pause. And it's about remembering that even in the most private moments, love can be felt. That's all for this week. Please like and subscribe to my channel. And if you are so inclined, I have further information on my Patreon channel. And I will see you in the next one.